So good morning. It's my privilege this morning to have on the interview Dr. Joerg Mayer-Ries. Currently, he's working as Senior Fellow at the Institute for Advanced Sustainability Studies, IASS. And we have the chance to talk to him a little bit about his career and some of the efforts in the German government and a little bit in the private sector. So Joerg, thank you for joining us this morning.
Yes, hello everybody, and hello Philip, good morning. It's Germany, we already have afternoon, so that's especially to your community spoken the morning. Well, my name is Joerg Mayer-Ries. As you said, I'm normally working at the Federal Ministry for Environment, Construction, Nature Conservation in Germany. In Berlin, and I have to say before I talk further on that this of course is a very personal video statement and not an official one, and I also don't speak for the IASS in Potsdam, the Institute for Advanced Sustainability Studies, because I'm just a fellow here. I'm not a real working here for a longer time. Well, I'm studied political economy and politics, and then went first to the university, later on worked for a policy education center where I organized international and national conferences on different topics. And then my career led me into the private field, to a private company who consults all kind of institutions in organizational development and communication development issues. This I did for 8 or 9 years, and then in 2007 I switched to the Federal Ministry as head of a division in the Department for Fundamental Questions of Environmental Policy. I'm head of about 8 to 9 people working there, mostly to coordinate policy issues in the environmental ministry. It's a huge ministry in Germany with also some research organizations behind it. And there are a lot of policies all around all environmental questions. And in the fundamental aspects division, we work in coordinating these aspects towards more general aspects and strategic long-term ideas for environmental policy. Also, we try to get into this division ideas, what is happening in society, in economic and technological developments, to integrate that into environmental policy making, and to consult our minister and the secretaries of state and others on how to deal with that with a rational and modern and future-oriented environmental policy. In 2013, we merged with another ministry, which is dealing with the questions of urban development and the building sector. So now we have a more expanded portfolio of questions, but still my main focus is on sustainability and environmental policy. I'd like to explain perhaps why we deal with sustainability. Sustainability in Germany is a very relevant policy in the organization of the government. Our Chancellor, Mrs. Merkel herself, is heading the German sustainability strategy since 2002. We revise this strategy every 4 years, and we are collecting and publishing data on about now 60 different policy targets to measure our effort to reach these targets now with a new deadline of 2030. So this is a long-term strategy, and every ministry and every policy field in Germany has to contribute to this sustainability strategy, to report, and also to defend deficits and so on if the indicators show that some policy goals are not reached or not reached in the right time. Of course, we have a mixed balance in that, but we have at least the procedures and the institutions to coordinate this policy from top of the government down to the different ministries. Then also all 16 federal states in Germany are involved in that, and also A lot of cities are dealing with the UN Agenda 2030 with sustainability policy and so on and so forth. One could even say that in Germany, the cities are partially in front of the whole movement. A lot of NGOs, scientists, also some companies are very actively in this field. And so we are very happy to have a bottom-up and also a top-down structure in our sustainability policy. So it's my task to coordinate the environmental policy and urban development policy part of this policy, to inform my colleagues, to ask them to integrate sustainability policy in their different air quality, water, soil, and whatever policies, and also to refer to their ideas if I'm negotiating with other ministries and other policy fields about new goals, about new instruments, and so on and so forth.
Thank you, Joerg. Let me ask you one long-term question about your work in the ministry before we move to the institute.
Yeah.
In our work, we're particularly interested in these fundamental questions or long-term questions of environmental policy, the question of sustainability in the big sense. So without going into some of the details, also because this is a more personal discussion, can you talk to us about the very long-term goals, or particularly what sustainability means in the work that you do with the German government?
Yeah, I'll try to do that. I mean, in general, the sustainability idea is the leading vision for the environmental ministry. And this is because we, on the one hand, want to have coordinated, integrated policies. Environmental policy needs to be integrated and to be negotiated with other policies, otherwise it's not really relevant. So we have to go further than only saving some natural spaces in Germany. It's really about economic policy, environmental health policy, environmental security and foreign policy, and so on and so forth. And so far we try to follow a sustainability idea of a real coordinated, integrated, let's say holistic policy, which is looking for the effects and side effects of every policy into every other policy field. More concrete on the environmental side, our long-term goals are concerning the cultural landscape of Germany and of course also in Europe and internationally, to have a human healthy landscape also for all animals and plants, and intact ecosphere systems, which keep our natural basis for the next hundreds and thousands of years for our children, and so on and so forth. And this is then going into the whole question of biodiversity goals, to get back biodiversity, because we are losing a lot of biodiversity in Germany, concerning landscapes, concerning plants, animals, concerning also genetic resources. We would like to have healthy air, water, and soil quality, especially in the question of soil. Germany has a lot of problems, for example, with the very high intensive agriculture we do have, and also with a lot of buildings and used land. So we try to keep spaces open and green, but also we try to reduce our nitrogen intake into soils. So we have concrete targets for the next 20 years. Then, of course, the climate question is of crucial interest for us, especially looking to the global system, where we are dependent on. We are looking for high energy efficiency and lowering the energy throughput in Germany. This is a main task for us, and we have a big problem in the transport sector, which concerns soil, water, air, climate, and every environmental field. So we would like to have mainly ecosystem, resilient ecosystems and intact ecosystems, which can produce food, health, landscape cultural basis for our society, for the European society, and for the global society. I could explain, I could describe this. So this is a structural element of sustainability policy and this more environmental policy. And then this leads, of course, to a completely new economic policy, which we need, reducing the resource energy input. We need a new health policy, which is more preventive than a health policy which tries to solve all the problems with very expensive medicine. We try to do a better nutrition and food policy to create small farmers structures and not only the big industrial ones, and so on and so forth. So this is going into every policy field, and that is the vision, let's say.
Thank you, Joerg. That gives us a beautiful overview of your work. Now you're currently including time as an advanced fellow or senior fellow at the Institute for Advanced Sustainability Studies. Can you tell us briefly, I know we don't have much time and you have another appointment to get to, but briefly, what is the Institute? What does it do? Again, for non-specialist audience, and then what will you be involved with during your time there?
Yeah. Well, the Institute for Advanced Sustainability Studies is an institute founded, I think, about 8 years ago by the former Environmental Minister Klaus Töpfer and others to work on sustainability research questions, but also to transfer this knowledge to the policy field, to society, and to work about the procedures how to optimize this channel between science and policy, and to create not only an integrated science view on sustainability, but also a transdisciplinary kind of science which integrates stakeholders, citizens, and media, and all people who are relevant for implementing sustainability knowledge into political and social actions. This institute has about 140 people working here, part-time, longer time, and there are several fellows like myself coming from institutions, from scientific institutions, some also from practical or political institutions. But I think I'm the only ministerial guy working here for 1 year or 10 months. Well, helping the Institute in general to foster these transdisciplinary aspect of research and science, to communicate and to cooperate better with society, policymakers, company people, and so on and so forth. So my specific task, because I was had the opportunity to work here for 1 year, is that our minister decided, together with the other ministers, to create a science platform in Germany, a science platform for sustainability, because we have a lot of scientists working in Germany, and with this platform we try to focus their work more on the progress of our sustainability strategy and to solve some basic questions which we do have in Germany with sustainability policy. So this platform is coordinated by the IASS here in Potsdam, and this platform is emerging, and I try to help the institute here to find contacts, to get the right ideas into this platform, and to organize it. So this is the main task for the next 10 months. I think when I'm back in the ministry, I will part-time also try to cooperate with this platform further, because the platform itself is part of the sustainability strategy of Germany. The other idea to work here is to think about long-term developments of environmental policy. What are the crucial concepts we should follow in environmental policy making? What are new challenges? And my specific question is how to organize, on the one hand, the science policy interface between environmental science, natural science, social science, and the environmental ministry, environmental policy, because This is a very relevant cooperation, and it can be optimized, I think. And on the other hand, how to organize the ministry itself in uptaking this kind of knowledge, because between a ministry and scientific institutions, we often have a communication problem. You have problems in taking up results at the right time, in the right language, in the right framing to communicate then as policymaker this back to the citizens. So these are things I'm thinking about. I'm as a fellow, I'm very free to talk to anybody I think is interesting in, to attend conferences like the conference Philip Clayton and me, we met here. I try to write one or two papers on this problem, and then I will try to get back with some ideas to the new government, which we will have in the next weeks or months, because we have elections in about 2 weeks. And I hope that the new or the old environmental minister will get some interest in my work, and we can perhaps optimize at least some of the elements of government. And so this will be my contribution after 10 months of working here.
Thank you, Joerg. That's a fantastic overview, both of the Institute and your goals during the 10 months that you'll be a fellow there. I think that for us, the notion of a transdisciplinary approach to the questions is extremely important. They're often dealt with in an isolated way, even the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. And that overarching perspective that you take both in your work at the ministry and in your work at the Institute is a model for the working together that we advocate. And that leads to my final question. Our concept or interest, our way of expressing that integration is with the phrase ecological civilization. And I wonder if you could talk, again, because it's a more private, personal discussion, about the longest term goal that we're heading toward. What if it's a transition toward a sustainable society or an ecological society? It may involve an actual transition between kinds of civilization. And I wonder if you could comment in the closing minute or so about that term and the longest goals that you and your colleagues are working toward.
Well, this is, of course, even for somebody who's always thinking on long-term questions, normally, of course, I'm trying to keep that on a, let's say, politically, practically level and time span. But of course, from a private point of view, I would say the long-term vision is that I think everybody in every society, in every collective body is able to understand the idea of systematic interdependence of life, and that we depend on each other because we are not really individuals. We won't survive as individuals, and we are depending on, of course, our direct environment, but we also depend on at least the planetary system, I think even the universal system, and to have some consciousness about that without grabbing all the details, of course, and to be able to put that into social, political, economic institutions who deal with that adequately, with this idea of interconnectedness and systemic interrelationship. I think this would be the long-term vision, to create a society which is working along this idea or these insights. These are natural science insights, but I think also social, psychological insights we do have, and even all the different religions, I think, are and spiritual ideas are in a way grappling with this systematic view of the world, which otherwise we won't manage it for the next hundreds and thousands of years. And my vision would be that humanity is not only something like some thousand years of existence on this planet, but that we manage to stay here for a longer time, and that we could do that in a democratic and peaceful way, and not by excluding people or nations or different collectivities from this wealth and this this possible happiness. I think we could enjoy even without destroying and degrading our planet and our universal system. So this has to do with ecology, but it has also to do with economy and culture, and it has to, of course, with civilization in the sense of that we are not individual consumers and hedonistic private people, but that we are really part of collectives of different levels, from family to neighborhood to cities and nations, and even something like a European and an international society. So I think this is a wonderful idea to have, and to be able to live on these different levels, let's say. But of course, this will be a great and very long-lasting challenge.
Thank you, Joerg. That's a beautiful long-term or overarching vision that draws together the specific work in sectors today, the longer-term visions that policymakers are involved in, and then that longest-term perspective, which thinks beyond the policies to that thing that draws us toward itself, that final goal. Again, Joerg, thanks very much for taking the time out of a busy schedule. It's been a privilege to talk with you, and I hope we'll be able to continue working with you in the future.
Yes, thank you, Philip, and thank you for listening, and have a good day.